Welcome to another treatment of the weekly Sunday School lesson. Today's lesson is entitled Another Pharaoh Opposes Israel, and it's for September the 8th, 2024. Now, this Sunday School lessons are taken from the Radiant Life Adult Sunday School literature published by the Assemblies of God. You can order your own copy by giving them a call at 855-642-2011. And I want to always mention that I am not affiliated with the publishing company, nor do I get any kind of compensation for it, but I am a licensed Assembly of God minister, and their Sunday school literature is very good. Exodus 5, 1 and 2. After this presentation to Israel's leaders, Moses and Aaron went and spoke to Pharaoh. They told him, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Let my people go so that they may hold a festival in my honor in the wilderness." "Is that so?" retorted Pharaoh. "And who is the Lord? Why should I listen to him and let Israel go? I don't know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go." Now, the children of Israel had been in bondage for a long time. Moses had been in exile in Midian, and God sent him on a mission back to Egypt. The Egyptians were very idolatrous, and Pharaoh didn't take Moses seriously because they were so idolatrous that they had so many different gods that this new God that Moses is talking about, the Pharaoh didn't take him that serious about it. Exodus 7, 8 through 13. Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Pharaoh will demand, 'Show me a miracle.' When he does this, say to Aaron, 'Take your staff and throw it down in front of Pharaoh, and it will become a serpent.'" So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and did what the Lord had commanded them. Aaron threw down the staff before Pharaoh and his officials, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh called in his own wise men and sorcerers, and these Egyptian magicians did the same thing with their magic. They threw down their staffs, which also became serpents. And then Aaron's staff swallowed up their staffs. Pharaoh's heart, however, remained hard. He still refused to listen, just as the Lord had predicted. Now, Aaron's staff is the same staff that God blessed at the burning bush. The staff would become a serpent. The magicians duplicated that transformation of the staff. It may have been just a mere illusion, or it could even have been demonic activity. However, I think it was a mere illusion, similar to the entertainment folks, which they do today. Now, Exodus 7, 19 through 23. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron, take your staff and raise your hand over the waters of Egypt, all its rivers, canals, ponds, and all the reservoirs. Turn all the water to blood. Everywhere in Egypt, the water will turn to blood, even the water stored in wooden bowls and stone pots." So Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord commanded them. As Pharaoh and all the officials watched, Aaron raised his staff and struck the water of the Nile. Suddenly, the whole river turned to blood. The fish in the river died, and the water became so foul that the Egyptians couldn't drink it. There was blood everywhere throughout the land of Egypt. But again, the magicians of Egypt used their magic, and they too turned water into blood. So Pharaoh's heart remained hard. He refused to listen to Moses and Aaron, just as the Lord had predicted. And Pharaoh returned to his palace and put the whole thing out of his mind. Now, this was an amazing miracle. All the water in Egypt was turned to blood. And the magicians also turned water into blood. But the verses imply the magicians just turned some water into blood, not all the water into blood. So it still could have been just a mere illusion that these magicians did. God, however, turned all the water into blood. Exodus 8, 1 through 7. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go back to Pharaoh and announce to him, this is what the Lord says. Let my people go, so they can worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I will send a plague of frogs across your entire land. The Nile River will swarm with frogs. They will come up out of the river and into your palace, even into your bedroom and onto your bed. They will enter the house of your officials and your people. They will even jump into your ovens and your kneading bowls. Frogs will jump on you, your people, and all your officials." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron, raise the staff in your hand over all the river and canals and ponds of Egypt, and bring up the frogs over all the land." So Aaron raised his hand over the waters of Egypt, and frogs came up and covered the whole land. But the magicians were able to do the same thing with their magic. They too caused frogs to come up on the land of Egypt. The magicians enticed the river frogs also to come up out of the Nile River. So maybe this was demonic activity. But the important part of this part of the story is that Pharaoh hardened his heart. Exodus 8, 16 through 19. So the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron, raise your staff and strike the ground. The dust will turn into a swarm of gnats throughout the land of Egypt." So Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord had commanded them. And Aaron raised his hand and struck the ground with his staff. Gnats infested the entire land, covering the Egyptians and the animals. All the dust of the land of Egypt turned into gnats. Pharaoh's magician tried to do the same thing with their secret arts, but this time they failed. And the gnats covered everyone, people and animals alike. "This is the finger of God," the magicians exclaimed to Pharaoh. But Pharaoh's heart remained hard. He wouldn't listen to them, just as the Lord predicted. Bug infestation is horrible. Bugs eat and contaminate all the food. Bugs transfer illnesses. The Egyptians were stricken with these gnats, and the Egyptian magicians could not duplicate the bug infestation. Exodus 9, 8 through 20. Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Take handfuls of soot from a brick kiln, and have Moses toss it into the air while Pharaoh watches. The ashes will spread like fine dust over the whole land of Egypt, causing festering boils to break out on people and animals throughout the land. so that they took soot from a brick kiln and went and stood before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh watched. Moses threw the soot into the air. The boils broke out on people and animals alike. Even the magicians were unable to stand before Moses because the boils had broken out on them and all the Egyptians. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, just as the Lord had predicted to Moses. Pharaoh refused to listen. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Get up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh. Tell him, 'This is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. Let my people go so they can worship me. If you don't, I will send more plagues on you and your officials and your people. Then you will know that there is no one like me in all the earth. By now I could have lifted my hand and struck you and your people with a plague to wipe you off the face of the earth. But I have spared you for a purpose, to show you my power and to spread my fame throughout the earth. But you still lord it over the people and refuse to let them go. So tomorrow, at this time, I will send a hailstorm more devastating than any of the history of Egypt. Quick, order your livestock and your servants to come from the fields and find shelter. Any person or animal left outside will die when the hail falls." Some of Pharaoh's officials were afraid because of the Lord had said. They quickly brought their servants and livestock in from the field. The Egyptians began to really suffer. The people suffered with boils. Their property were destroyed with boils, with the hail. Exodus 10:3 through 7. So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, "This is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. How long will you refuse to submit to me? Let my people go so they can worship me. If you refuse, watch out, for tomorrow I will bring a swarm of locusts on your country. They will cover the land so that you won't be able to see the ground. They will devour what little is left of your crops after the hailstorm, including all the trees growing in the fields. They will overrun your palaces and the homes of your officials and all the houses of Egypt. Never in the history of Egypt have your ancestors seen a plague like this one." And with that, Moses turned and left Pharaoh. Pharaoh's officials now came to Pharaoh and appealed to him. "How long will you let this man hold us hostage? Let the man go to worship the Lord God, the Lord their God. Don't you realize that Egypt lies in ruins?" Locusts were one of the most devastating plagues of ancient times. They destroyed almost all crops. The officials pleaded with Pharaoh to stop this conflict, but his heart was still hard. Exodus 11:1 through 3. Then the Lord said to Moses, "I will strike Pharaoh in the land of Egypt with one more blow. After that, Pharaoh will let you leave his country. In fact, he will be so eager to get rid of you that he will force you all to leave. Tell all the Israelite men and women to ask their Egyptian neighbors for articles of food and gold." Now the Lord had caused the Egyptians to look favorably on the people of Israel, and Moses was considered a very great man in the land of Egypt, respected by Pharaoh's officials and Egyptian people alike. God gives the final steps to Moses. God always has a plan. And we should follow Moses' example and follow the plan of God in our lives. Exodus 12:31 through 36. Pharaoh sent for Moses and Aaron during the night. "Get out," he ordered. "Leave my people and take the rest of the Israelites with you. Go and worship the Lord as you have requested. Take your flocks and your herds as you said and be gone. Go and bless me as you leave." All the Egyptians urged the people of Israel to get out of the land as quickly as possible, for they thought, "We will all die." The Israelites took their bread dough before the yeast was added. They wrapped their kneading boards as their cloaks and carried them on their shoulders. And the people of Israel did as Moses had instructed. They asked the Egyptians for clothing and articles of silver and gold. The Lord caused the Egyptians to look favorably on the Israelites, and they gave the Israelites whatever they asked for. So they stripped the Egyptians of their wealth. Now they had just lost their firstborn. Pharaoh finally relents. But even after all of this, he later backslides and goes after them after they've left, and it cost Pharaoh his life and his army. He lets the people go here, but then repents, and it's so costly. But God delivers the Jews. They are free from bondage. God rescued his people. I want to thank you for listening to us. If you want to get in touch with me, you can contact me by email, DonnieBryson@gmail.com. You can go to my website, www.gospelmailbox.org, or you can even call me on my cell phone, 423-355-3859. Well, friends, good Lord willing, I'll be back with you next weekend.